Whenever you're learning a new craft, there are always some things that are very obvious that you need to learn. For example, when you're becoming a songwriter, of course you need to learn how to write lyrics, how to write melodies, but then there are always some skills that aren't quite as intuitive. So today we're going to talk about 3 different unintuitive songwriting skills for you to learn. The first unintuitive skill to learn is that you need to know how to turn off your internal judge and your internal editor. Now, your internal judge and your internal editor are overall certainly very useful. In fact, I've talked before about how writing is editing, and most of how well your product comes out will end up being more about the editing process than it was the original writing process. When it comes to how good a novel is or a song is, how much time you spend editing and how much work you put into editing are going to be much more important than how good the first draft was. But when you're in writing mode, it's very important to turn your editor off because, well, it's very important and helpful when it comes to editing. Your editor is actually very destructive to your writing process. Your writing process should fundamentally be very exploratory. You don't want to have rules. You don't want to have that internal editor and judge and critic being like, you don't write songs about that, or say stuff like, you don't write songs that are sarcastic, or you don't write happy songs, or that lyric's dumb. That's a terrible idea. You don't want to be hearing those things from yourself. You need to turn that off and just be willing to do a discovery process and save the judgmentalness, save the editor side, save that critic for later. Because the writing process is the point in the process where you need to just try anything and everything. You need to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see if it sticks. If you have that internal critic talking to you or that internal editor, you might never even try an idea that might have actually turned out really well, even though you think that that idea wouldn't have been any good, or maybe you just thought it wouldn't be a good fit for you. So when you're writing, when you're in the discovery process, turn off the editor, turn off the critic. The second skill you need to learn is patience in editing. Right now, I just want you to decide to accept that the vast majority of your time songwriting is going to actually be song editing. Now, I find, and I think this is mostly common, most of your editing process is going to be lyric editing. Music tends to spend a little less time being edited because it's a little easier to sort of feel it out and sort of just feel what the right thing is a little earlier on in the process than it is to feel lyrics. If you have any doubt about how writing is editing, just think about how good you think books would be if they were the first draft. If you've ever written a paper before or had to do some creative writing classes, you probably know that the first thing you wrote down was really not very good. And even if you thought it was pretty good and maybe it was good enough to get an A or a B in the class, if you're being really honest with yourself, it's probably not something you're super proud of, or you at least know that it could be infinitely better if you spent some time editing and changing some of the words around and cleaning up some sentences. And when it comes to songwriting, and specifically lyric writing, it's no different. It is not uncommon for me to write basically the whole music for a song that I really like in a single evening or in maybe even 20 minutes or so, but then for the whole song to end up taking me 6 months or more just because I'm constantly reworking the lyrics, figuring out different ways to word things, finding better words, deciding that the second verse doesn't say something significantly different from the first verse, so then I kind of have to rework the whole thing so that it doesn't feel like I'm just repeating myself with different words. So especially if you want to take pride in your lyrics and have your lyrics be something that is of high quality and not just something that is like every other song where it feels like it was thrown together by a 12-year-old, then you want to spend extra time editing your lyrics. And skill number 3 is to learn how to balance between knowledge and feeling. I think most of us would agree that at the end of the day, the most important thing for your song to do is to hit the right emotions. At the end of the day, no matter how intelligent and smart your song is, if people's emotions and feelings aren't touched, it's not going to be effective. But at the same time, music is also highly technical. And if you learn the different aspects of the technicality of it, if you learn music theory, if you learn how to sort of create different emotions and how to create tension and all the different more hard skills that go along with songwriting, that also can be super effective for you and can help you be able to actually repeat the process of writing songs that hit the right emotions, because you aren't just running into it by luck, you know how to generate those things. Gaining knowledge about music, music theory, lyric writing, and all those sorts of things is going to be immensely helpful to you to be able to more reliably and repeatedly make good music. So sure, you can just go by your emotions, but probably that's going to result in less consistently good music. But at the same time, if you just go by knowledge and you don't go by your feelings, you might end up missing out on writing some stuff that just is really emotionally resonant because you're too busy thinking about it to feel the music, which at the end of the day is the most important thing. Getting a little more specific here, I think that feeling is more important when it comes to the musical side of songwriting, but when it comes to the lyrics, I think the technical side is actually more important, because at the end of the day, yes, the lyrics still need to generate a certain emotion and make people feel things, and yes, they also should be from the heart. But at the same time, your lyrics do need to make sense in order to stand out. They need to say something different. They need to be able to find a way to communicate something that is a human condition thing that we all can relate to, without sounding like you're saying the same thing for the billionth, trillionth time that's already been said before. Because while there's nothing new under the sun, it's also true that we can breathe new life into older concepts by finding new ways to look at things. Because look, there are only so many things to talk about that are emotionally resonant. There's a pretty short list, honestly, so we are going to end up talking about some of the same things, but finding the specific details and the specific perspectives that will find a way to say something new about something that has been talked about so many times before is going to be the key. And that element is going to be something that's going to be helped by more the technical side of things and using your brain rather than just your heart. And when I say heart, I mean your metaphorical heart, because yes, obviously your heart doesn't actually have anything to do with anything one thinks or feels. So in summary, the 3 unintuitive skills to learn are to be patient in editing, the ability to turn off your internal editor, your internal critic, because at the end of the day, would you really want movie critics to be actually making movies? Probably not. And also, you want to be able to find the balance between knowledge and feeling, because they're both very important, and your songwriting will end up being the most consistently good if you can balance the two. If you found this video helpful, be sure to drop a like, and if you're interested, I have a free guide on 10 different ways to start writing a song. If you want to dive in and write a song right now, it will be helpful to you if you are a new songwriter, and it will also be helpful to you if you are somebody who's been a songwriter for a while but just needs sort of a fresh perspective and a different way to go about songwriting, because it's really common to get stuck in our ways and how we write songs, right? If you're a guitarist, you might gravitate towards writing the song the same way. You grab your guitar, come up with a chord progression, and then sing on top, and that's how you come up with your songs. But it's easier to stay more original if you actually sort of mix it up a little bit. I'm a pianist and a guitarist, so I shift between the two instruments a lot, but I also shift between different sounds. Sometimes I start with lyrics. There are so many different ways to start writing a song that can all be helpful to staying fresh with your creativity. So be sure to check that out. It's at songwritertheory.com/free guide, link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll talk to you next time.